Hi, I'm Paul Zuber from KESA. We're in the process of launching a new program that we call Project Leadership, where art meets science. The premise of our program is to take those principles of project management that we've all learned and practiced over the years that we'll refer to as the science, and put them in the context of the people that are required to collaborate for the successful execution of the project. That's what we call the art. In my experience, you can practice all the science you want, but if you haven't mastered the art of managing people, you're going to really struggle to succeed on your project. One really important element of managing the people on your project is managing conflict. Today I'd like to share with you an approach that I found very effective in helping to manage that conflict that's bound to arise during the course of managing your project. Encountering some form of conflict in the course of executing your project is inevitable. Depending on your approach, that conflict can be destructive, constructive, or at least expected and manageable. Now, how often have you completed a project, either within your organization or for an external customer, and finished it with absolutely no occurrences of conflict? I've participated in and led the completion of very many projects throughout my career in the construction industry, and I can tell you it's safe to say it's the exception when a project gets done and there hasn't been some form of conflict to work through. Now, conflict will be harmful and confrontational if that's how you view it. Conflict can also be constructive if that's how you choose to view it and approach it. Two different perspectives on how to solve a specific issue can provide an opportunity for improvement or for innovation. Now let me throw out a few questions right here, and we'll pause to give you a chance to discuss them. First, what are some of the project conflict situations that you encounter most often? How do you prepare to manage these conflicts? And if you don't prepare to manage them in advance, what are some things that you might do to be proactive in managing these situations? I'm willing to bet that contract change was high on your list of common project conflicts. Scope disputes, schedule disputes, late deliverables, late payments were all also likely on your list. I'd be really interested on some of the things that you do to manage these situations. How many of you might be reactive in these situations, and how many of you are proactive? How often do you read your contract at project startup? It seems really obvious and straightforward, and many of you will have nodded your head yes to this question. If you did, I'm willing to bet that you're in the minority of construction project managers. In the white water of getting a project up and running, this too often seems to be a low priority. The contract goes up on the shelf in the office and doesn't come out until you're already in the hot water. Too many project managers lean on implicit consent and trust and goodwill to protect their position on their projects. Now, don't get me wrong, establishing mutual trust is a foundational step in setting up your project for success. Key to a good relationship is mutual consent to be challenged respectfully. Many people are often reluctant to rock the boat in any good relationship for fear of eroding goodwill. However, both parties need to exercise their due diligence to protect their interests and those of the project. Both parties need to feel comfortable in expressing their own point of view. Take a few minutes now to talk about some of the things that you might do to be proactive in managing project conflict. Our advice is the best time to have your difficult conversations is before things get difficult. That's at the outset of your project. Meet with the key stakeholders and talk openly about the risks, how you behave if and when they arise. Talk about what might go wrong in the course of the project. We like to use the framework of purpose, priorities, and approach to get organizations and teams aligned in working towards a common goal. Never underestimate how effective clearly stated purpose, priorities, and approach are in enabling collaborative performance on your project. Start with the project's purpose. Shared purpose creates clarity of the importance and relevance of the work and connects stakeholders. Define why the project is being undertaken and describe the required outcomes. It will also be beneficial to talk about the implications for all parties if the project does not succeed. Next, high-level priorities aligned with the successful project outcome criteria will define the roadmap to accomplishment of purpose. They'll also inform and clarify the action planning process and the wins to be celebrated. It seems evident that teams understand they need to get a job done, but what's often not well defined is how they will intend to accomplish their work. The absence of this how leaves interactions open to any individual's choice. Unfortunately, sometimes these choices are anything but productive, with stakeholders falling into patterns of conflict and frustration. Creating a shared approach provides people with an understanding of the requirements to function collaboratively and effectively. The approach articulates the norms, values, and guidelines for working collaboratively. So start with acknowledging that there will be situations where conflict will arise. Acknowledge that each of you must look after your respective organizations, then take out the contract and work your way through it together. It's your set of ground rules. From your perspective, what will happen if you fall short on resources and the schedule slips? What if you encounter substandard quality issues? What if you go over budget? From your customer's perspective, what if they're late in providing you with their deliverables? What if they're late in providing you with payment on time? How will you approach resolution when you don't agree on entitlement or value for a change in scope? This is very likely the most common source of conflict in construction contracts. Get a mutual understanding of your respective deliverables, the obligations for notice, the process for conflict resolution, just to name a few. Acknowledge that you will likely encounter one of these scenarios, and that when each person is fulfilling their contractual obligation, it's not a personal affront. Also talk about who needs to be kept in the loop of communications for various situations. So when the going gets tough, you will have established an agreed approach on how to navigate the situation. And remember, when you do get there, listen first. Resist the temptation to defend, to deflect, or go on the offensive. Give your counterpart the respect to fully explain their position. Then confirm that you clearly understand where they're coming from. Understanding does not imply agreement. I'm confident that you'll have great success with having difficult conversations at the outset of a project before things get difficult. Please give it a try. You've got nothing to lose. If the discussion's not well received, well, you'll know what you're dealing with right from the start. So let's leave you with this question. How might you engage your customers in a proactive conversation about the possible conflicts that may arise on your next project? Where and when will be a good place to start?